Okay, in this section, we are going to talk about adding integers. This is the video for Unit 1, Section 2. Again, we're going to be looking at adding integers. I know last time you learned that integers were both negative numbers as well as positive numbers. So if we think about a number line, like so, let's put 0 in the middle. The numbers to the right of the 0 are positive, such as 5, 10, 15. To the left of the 0 would be -5, -10, and so forth. When we think about adding both positive and negative numbers, or integers, there are a couple rules that make things a little easier for us. The first thing to think about is, do the integers have the same sign? If the integers have the same sign, we're going to simply add them and use the common sign. So one example would be 8 plus 12. We know that these numbers are both positive, so we're simply going to add them and keep the sign, which would remain positive. 8 plus 12 does in fact equal 20. If we have -6 plus -4, let's make that one negative sign there. Our signs are the same, so we're simply going to add our numbers and keep the sign the same. So our answer would be -10. If we have an example, such as 5 plus -8, and our signs are not the same, this is where we can't just add them. We need to think about subtracting the lesser absolute value, which in this case would be 5, from the greater absolute value, which in this case would be 8, and then we're going to take the sign of the greater absolute value. So 5 plus -8, we're going to subtract 5 from 8 to get 3, and we're going to take the sign of the 8 because that's the greater absolute value, so our answer is -3. If it's helpful to think about this on a number line, what's happening is if we start with 0, let's put 5 on our number line, which is here, we are adding -8. So we're not going to add 8 this way, because then we would be adding +8. We are actually adding -8. And if we add -8 to 5, we will land on -3. The final rule for adding integers means that the sum of a number and its opposite is 0. So for example, 7 plus -7 equals 0. 2 plus -2 equals 0. Moving right along, let's do some practice with these adding integers using the rules from the top. The first example is -51 plus -23. Our signs are the same, so we can simply add those two integers and get -74. Number 2, we have +29 plus -48. Our signs are different, so we're going to subtract 29 from 48 to get 19. And we're going to take the sign of the greater absolute value, which in this case is 48. Our answer would be -19. Same thing for number 3. -15 plus 27. We're going to subtract 15 from 27, which is 12. And we're going to take the sign of the greater absolute value, which in this case is 27. So our answer would be +12. If you think about this on a number line again, if you start at -15 and you want to add +27 to that, you're going to move to the right 27 times. You will pass 0, and then you will land on +12. Number 4, 91 plus -26. Again, we're going to subtract 26 from 91 to get 65. We're going to take the sign of the larger absolute value, which in this case is 91, so our answer is 65. Number 5 is a simple addition problem that you have seen before. Two positive numbers. 41 plus 30 is simply 71. Number 6, our numbers are both negative, -21 and -34. If we add these together, we should get -55. Just like we can add two integers, we can also add more than two integers. I like to go in order from left to right and simply add them as we go. Negative 9 plus 12. Our signs are different, so we subtract 9 from 12 to get 3. Take the sign of the larger absolute value, which remains positive, but then we still need to add that negative 4. Again, our signs are different. Subtract 3 from 4 to get 1. Take the sign of the greater absolute value, which in this case is negative 4. So our answer will in fact be negative 1. Number 2, negative 22 plus negative 13 plus 6. Again, negative 22 and negative 13 are both negative. So if we add those together, we get negative 35, but we still have that 6 remaining, so plus 6. Our signs are different. We're going to subtract 6 from 35 to get 29. We're going to take the sign of the larger absolute value, which in this case is 35, so our answer will be negative 29. Number 3, you would solve the exact same way. I'm going to leave this one for you to try. Go ahead and try number 3. So moving right along, let's look at number 4. Again, let's work in order. Negative 5 plus 4. Our signs are different. We'll subtract 4 from 5 to get negative 1. Plus negative 5 plus 3. Negative 1 and negative 5 are the same. Let's keep the sign the same then and add them to get negative 6 plus 3. Again, signs are different. Take 3 from 6. Take the sign of the greater absolute value, which in this case our answer is negative 3. Same thing with number 5. 8 and 11 are different signs. We're going to subtract 8 from 11 to get 3. Take the sign of the greater absolute value, which in this case is 11. So our answer would be negative 3 plus negative 19 plus 11. Negative 3 and negative 19 are both negative, so we simply add them and keep the sign to get negative 22 plus 11. Signs are different. What do? We subtract 11 from 22 to get 11 and take the sign of the greater absolute value, which in this case is 22. So our answer is negative 11. Moving right along, we are going to evaluate some expressions when x equals negative 8 and y equals negative 5. Remember in algebra that expressions do not have an equal sign. We're simply going to substitute the value of x, negative 8, wherever we see an x. So the first one will be negative 8 plus 15. Our signs are different, so you guessed it. We're going to take 8 from 15, which is 7. Keep the sign of the greater absolute value, which in this case is 15. So our answer is positive 7. Number 2, we're going to substitute the value of negative 5 for y. So our problem will read negative 19 plus negative 5. Our signs are the same, so we simply add them and keep the sign to get an answer of negative 24. Last but not least, number 3, we have negative 8 plus negative 5. Our signs are the same. We keep it. Our answer is negative 13. I'd like you to try number 4. I'm going to skip to number 5. Our answer would be negative 8 plus negative 5 plus negative 8 plus negative 5. As I've substituted the values in each time I saw an x and a y, I'm going to add this in 2 steps. All of our signs are the same, so we know our answer is going to be negative. Negative 13 plus negative 13 equals negative 26.